October baseball is where legends aren't just remembered, they're made. For the Chicago White Sox, 2005 wasn't just a season, it was destiny. Game 3 of the 2005 World Series, 14 innings, every pitch heavier than the last. And then, a name not everyone expected. Geoff Blum stepped into the box. One swing, one moment, one line drive into history. A home run that didn't just win a game, it helped define a championship. But behind that moment is a career built on resilience, adaptability, and a love for the game that started long before the spotlight.
Welcome to Plot Twist Radio, the show where creativity, storytelling, and the unpredictable path of the creative life all collide. I'm your host, Erin Egnatz.
Hi, Geoff. Welcome to Plot Twist Radio.
Good to be on with you. Thank you. Yeah, anytime to talk about 2005 is always a good day.
It's one of my favorites. I'm dating myself a little bit, but I was there. So it's a big deal for me. I know a lot of my followers are like, what are you doing? Because I'm known as a Dodger fan, but back in the day, I was a White Sox fan. So you went from the University of California, Berkeley, right? To the big league.
Yes.
How did your time there prepare you for pro baseball?
I was very, very fortunate because in high school, I had a little bit of a growth spurt. I always knew I was athletic, played a lot of sports as a kid, but had a little bit of a growth spurt going into my high school career and kind of dialed it down to basketball and baseball. But I think once I got to about 6'3", 6'4", I knew that was going to be the max height I was going to get. So basketball kind of went by the wayside. I said, I'm going to play some baseball. And it wasn't until my junior year that I actually realized that I might have an opportunity to play past high school. And I started to get recruited. Scouts, MLB scouts started to show up at games, but I was never a guy that had that put on a lot of weight as a young athlete. I was about 6 foot. Like if you look at my license, I was 6'3", about 160 pounds, and that's not very big. As far as competing on an everyday basis. So going to school was the best thing for me. And what it did for me was it taught me how to live on my own. It taught me how to be a student athlete, time management, being self-motivated. And then it also taught me to compete at a very high level. It was a great situation for me. Going to school is probably the best thing that ever happened.
That's great. So your high school actually retired your number. What did that moment mean to you personally?
It's amazing. It means a lot. And I literally, and this came up in the ceremony when they did retire the numbers, and I pulled my head coach off to the side and I said, hey man, I'm going to make it to the big leagues. You're going to retire my number someday. And it took a little while to get that done, but it was kind of fun to see, everything come to fruition. And it was a lot of fun to share that with people out there at Chino High School. And I think to this day, I'm not sure, but I think to this day, that might be the only number that's been retired athletically at Chino High School. So it was a great honor. It's a lot of fun, and it's always good to be able to use that in conversations that I might not be winning.
Absolutely, because you know what? I'm from Crown Point, Indiana, and we had Dan Plesac, who was a former pitcher, and I'm telling you, he is still a living legend in Crown Point, Indiana. His number is retired. Maybe a lot of people don't remember him from the MLB, but I'm going to tell you, he is a superstar in Crown Point, Indiana. So that's a big deal. High school numbers being retired is a huge deal.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed that. It's, everybody has really good friends from high school, but to actually be honored in that way and kind of be hanging up there and giving hope maybe to some other young athlete that someday they can have their number hung up there.
Absolutely. So when the big leagues came calling, what was that like for you?
It was crazy because I got drafted in 1994, moved through the minor leagues at a pretty good rate until I kind of stalled out, maybe my third or fourth year in AAA, had an injury, was battling back from that. And in 1999, I actually was speaking to counselors at Berkeley about going back and trying to complete my school, my education, and get my degree and move on into, just the workforce and figure out what was going to go on. And lo and behold, that season in 1999, I made a couple of swing adjustments and I started to drive the ball a little bit more and hit some home runs and got invited to big league camp. And the recognition was there. And then August 9th of 1999, an injury at the big league level opened up a door for me to go in there and play. And I got, at the end of 99, I got 60 games, I think, in the big leagues, and the rest is history. And it was amazing. Even if that was the only time I had to play in the big leagues, I was pretty happy that I got that opportunity.
So how did you played for several teams? We mentioned the White Sox and of course the Astros. How did you adapt so well to the changing environments?
That's actually a really good question. I'm not sure, how that's developed. There's always going to be an overarching theme of, I want to compete at this level. I want to play at this level. How do I maintain it? And unfortunately and unfortunately for me, it was a lot of adaptability. My first year in the big leagues, I played primarily shortstop, and then I turned into a utility guy. And I think that adaptability on the field did me a lot of good in the clubhouse too, and allowed me the opportunity to mix into a lot of different clubhouses. I was never the superstar. I was never the big money guy on a ball club. And I always had to be the guy that was willing to take on the role of being a utility guy, being in that support group. And I think that's what allowed me to move from clubhouse to clubhouse, was that lack of ego and being willing to kind of push in the same direction as all the other 24 guys in that clubhouse. And it made it very appealing. And, being traded 3 times, that's not something you choose to do, but it's also nice knowing that another team is choosing to put you on their team. So that's kind of encouraging. But at the same time, you get fired a couple times and you're searching for jobs and you got to move into a new clubhouse and you got to impress a whole new group of people. It's always kind of interesting.
Yeah, I can imagine. So as you said, changing atmospheres, and the 2005 team, they had quite the atmosphere. That had, I remember it very well, of course. You guys were such a unit compared to a lot of teams. I mean, even, like I said, I'm a Dodger fan now. They're a great team, but they don't have what you guys had, this electric feeling. Was it just the guys minus, the big egos? Because there wasn't really, there was like Frank Thomas and Paul, but they never really had the egos. Was that maybe what it was?
No, I think that's exactly what it was. Paul Konerko couldn't have been a better leader on that ball club. Frank Thomas was around. So you had Hall of Fame stature type guys, and you had proven big leaguers on that team. And it's kind of funny, every 5 to 10 years, we get together and reminisce about that 2005 season. And it's kind of, it's very unique that I was able to show up at the trade deadline. So I only had 2 or 3 months with that ball club, and they took me in with open arms. Talking about being able to adapt to ball clubs, you've got to have a ball club that's willing to take you in as well. And that's how the Chicago White Sox were. But I think our mentality, and the more we talk about it over the years, is that we kind of became that misfit island of big leaguers. And we kind of took offense that nobody else really wanted us. And we wanted to go out there and prove the world wrong, kind of thing. And as soon as the bell rang, or we got in between the white lines and it was game time, you couldn't have picked 25 guys that were going to go out there and play harder for each other than that ball club. That's what I think made that team so unique, is that everybody did put their egos aside and kind of pushed each other to go out there and win. And we didn't want to do anything else other than go out there and embarrass the other team.
And you guys did. I remember I went to one of the playoff games. It was the one with the drop ball third strike with AJ.
Oh yeah. Angels, yeah.
It was so creative. It's like you guys found ways to win that just weren't the average, the status quo. It was so unique. I really miss those days, and I didn't even.
No, you're exactly right. Yeah, no, it was. We were gonna. That is basically encapsulated that team. It's just we were gonna find any way to go out there and do it. We were gonna wreak havoc. We were gonna cause issues. We were going to scratch, claw, punch you in the neck, whatever it took to go out there and win ball games. And that was really a really good indication of it right there. The creativity of AJ just to force the issue and create havoc out there. And it worked out for us.
It really did. So take me to game 3 of the World Series. Inside that at bat, what did you see from the pitcher, and when did you know you got it?
Well, leading up to that at bat was kind of crazy, because if you go back and knowing that I eventually got into the game the inning before, and it was a 5-hour game. It's taken forever. There's no pitch clocks. There's no, There's nothing. It's just pure, unadulterated, Major League Baseball at its finest. And it was at the elite level in the World Series, tie ball game, two teams getting after it. And we started to, get later in the game, you start to get down to the bottom of the rosters. And I vividly remember in the 13th inning, I'd been swinging a bat since the 5th inning, because in a National League park, pitchers hitting, there's the opportunity for pinch hits, there's double switches, there's all kinds of opportunities. So I wanted to make sure I was ready if Ozzie called my name. But the deeper we got into that game, the less guys we had, and I knew it was coming down to me or Pablo Ozuna. And Ozzie pulled us off to the side and said, Pablo, if Iguchi makes the last out, you're going to double switch into second base. Blummer, if it gets to the pitcher spot, which I think was maybe fifth or sixth that inning, you're going to pinch hit. And I said, okay, we got it. Iguchi makes the last out. He strikes out, and he comes back into the dugout. Ozzie Guillen looks at me, looks at Pablo, looks at me, looks back at Pablo, and then looks at me and goes, you're going to second base. And I was like, what? I'm like, I don't even know where that glove is. So it kind of surprised me and shocked me. And I went searching, took off all my elbow pads, my batting gloves, and found my glove, ran out to second base. I think I caught a pop fly. We get out of the inning, and I'm hitting third in the top of the 14th inning. Now, in front of me is the World Series MVP, Jermaine Dye, what could have been the co-MVP in Paul Konerko, and I'm hitting third. So in my mind, I'm going MVP, All-Star, then me. And I'm going, okay, I'm gonna bunt, I'm gonna move them over, I'm gonna do something productive to put them in scoring position and give somebody else the opportunity to win. And as it happened, Jermaine Dye gets another base hit. He's on first base. I'm standing in the on-deck circle, and in my mind, I'm going, oh, dear God, Paul Konerko is going to get on first base. It's going to be first and second, nobody out. I'm going to dig in, look at Joey Cora down at third base. He's going to give me the bunt sign. And I was like, oh, no, I can't remember the last time I bunted. And I wasn't too ecstatic about that situation because of the magnitude of the situation. And I'm on deck watching how things unfold, and Paul Konerko hits a rocket to third base. Morgan Ensberg makes a great backhanded play, throws it to this guy. They turn the double play. And as crazy as this sounds, I was probably the happiest guy in the ballpark because it took the bunt off the situation for me. So I was like, whew, I can go up, have it at bat, and we'll see what happens. And with 2 outs, I dug in, and Ozzie gave us a pretty good scouting report, with Ezekiel Estacio said sinker slider. And I also had an idea of what the Astros wanted to do to me because I played with them in 2002, 2003. And I knew they weren't going to throw me a fastball anywhere near me that I could get to because they knew I crushed fastballs. And I dig in and I say, I'm not going to swing until I get a strike. First pitch, off the outside corner. Next pitch, off the outside corner. So I'm 2-0. And I say, okay, get a pitch that I can handle, go up the middle the other way. And if you watch the replay, Ezekiel Estacio pulls that fastball to the down and in corner. And I probably the hardest ball I've ever hit in my life. That was right in my go zone. I dropped the barrel, got all of it. And to be brutally honest, I knew I got it good, but I didn't know if I got it good enough or high enough to get it out of the ballpark. So my first 2 steps, if you watch the replay, I put my head down and I'm trucking. I'm like, get to second base. And I put my head down, I look up, and the next thing I see is Tim Raines, both arms in the air, jumping. And that's when I kind of realized that the ball got out of the ballpark. And to this day, I still do not remember touching any of the bases until I got to home plate.
That's epic. Did you realize right away how historic that home run would be for the White Sox, or did it hit later?
No, not at all. Because in the moment, you're just thinking, it wasn't until I got back inside the dugout. There's a great video on the DVD that they did, and there was a camera isolated on me, and I'm taking off my batting gloves, and you kind of see me in a daze looking straight ahead, and I just went, wow. Like, I can't believe that just happened because, I was a kid in LA watching the Dodgers, and I vividly remember in 1988 when Kirk Gibson hit his home run, I was like, dude, would that not be incredible to be able to do something like that? And now, at that moment, I did. And even, 20, 25 years later, I did that. It's still astonishing to think about. But at the moment you're thinking, man, let's just close this game out and win this ball game and get to game 4 and let's get our rings. But yeah, it was a short time after that I think I everything kind of kicked in and was like, yeah, that's something that it is really rare to be done at the World Series.
Yes. And you have like a statue there now. It's amazing. I was there last week and I was like, hey, I didn't even realize that. I'm going to be interviewing.
It's crazy to think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anytime my kids look at me sideways, like, Dad, you're crazy. I'm like, yeah, but Dad has a statue. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, that's leverage.
Yeah.
So how different is it now as a broadcaster versus a player? Is it much different to view the game through the lens of a broadcaster versus a player?
Yeah, it is. There's towards the end of your career, if you play long enough, you're lucky enough to play long enough to where it becomes a business, and but you become jaded a little bit towards the end of it because your body's hurting, and there's other guys trying to take your job, and you're just kind of like, man, this is all coming to an end. And then I get the job with the Astros and sit in a booth and I get to watch baseball. And I remember the 2013 season was terrible for the team. It was terrible for me because I was learning the ropes of broadcasting. But I remember in 2014, I got a text from an ex-teammate that kind of said, hey, you're doing a great job. I'm listening. I said, thanks, appreciate it. And like 2 innings later, he goes, are you enjoying it? And I was kind of like, man, that's a great question, because you're kind of, not that you're taking it for granted, but you're like, dude, I'm not playing, so it's not as cool. But I was like, yeah, you know what? I actually do like it. And I'm actually finding a love for the game again in a different way, because from 2013 to now, the game has gotten so different, so incredible, but I love watching guys that are bigger, better, stronger, faster, their ability to throw 100 miles an hour, their ability to hit the ball that is coming at them at 100 miles an hour. I have a true appreciation for what they're doing. And then obviously the run the Astros have been on with winning all these baseball games and going to the World Series. It's really been electric and a golden opportunity for me to promote and talk about the game that I truly love. And it's been a blessing, and I love every minute of it.
I bet. Do you ever catch yourself analyzing a play and thinking, I would have did that a little differently?
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, I try not to be the guy that goes, back in my day, being that old crotchety guy. But, there's moments that replicate situations that I've been in the past. And I've been like, I didn't do that, and I don't think I would have done what that guy did. But I've got to be very diplomatic in how I handle that, because I've got to be around these guys, for 180 days throughout the course of the season. I'm on the field. I'm in the airplane. I'm around these guys, and I don't want to disrespect them. And that's one thing when I got in the booth. There were a couple of things that I wanted to do in the booth. One was just be me. The second one was never forget how hard this game is. And I've got to respect these guys and what they're going out there and doing when it's great. And I've got to respect them when it's going bad. So I always try to remember that this game is one of the hardest games in the world to play. And I hope that comes across in the broadcast, where I can explain it well enough to where I'm explaining why they did what they did, but not berating them or saying that they're terrible ball players, because they're not.
Right. It is a very, very difficult game. I like that way of broadcasting, but I also like the way of, Hawk Harrelson. I miss him.
Yes.
He would just straight up put you on the spot.
Put you on blast. Yeah, no. And Hawk, he developed that reputation. I don't know if I'll ever get there, but that's part of, the being who you are in the booth. And I think with ex-players, this is something I found early on in my career, in a broadcast career, was I was very reactionary. And I had to pull back on that, because I would be like, what the hell is he doing? And I'd have to be like, well, can't do that. Got to kind of sit back and say, okay, well, let's watch the game and understand a little bit better what's going on.
Very cool. So these are just some rapid fire questions, and then we're good.
Okay.
What is your favorite ballpark that you've ever played in?
Favorite ballpark I ever played in, it's easy for me to say, Dyken Park and Petco Park. Those were two of the most fun to play in. The fans were great. The stadiums, the surfaces, the views were great. But if I had to put one at the top, believe it or not, it would be PNC Park in Pittsburgh. Love that place.
Really? It's very pretty there. I love the
It's
bridge.
gorgeous. And I had no idea. You know, what's funny is you play the game and you're like, okay, sight lines are great. I see the baseball good. The surface is fun. It's a short porch in right field. And then I get in the booth and you get to, you kind of hovering above everything. And you, like you said, you get to see out past center field. The Clemente Bridge is lit up. The Allegheny's flowing. I mean, it's incredible. It's much prettier than you would assume for Pittsburgh.
Yes, absolutely. What was the toughest pitcher you ever faced?
Oh, easy. I mean, everybody expects me to say Randy Johnson, who was very tough, but Kevin Brown. Kevin Brown, I had to face him in his prime. I also faced Pedro Martinez in his prime, but Kevin Brown, for whatever reason, scared the bejesus out of me. It seemed like he was always like in a perpetual sweat, and he was jacked out of his mind, and he would wear these small uniforms, and he just puffing and puffing, and it looked like he was so mad at me when I was in the box, and I couldn't hit that guy.
Love that. So lastly, what's something you hope fans take away when they hear you call a game today?
I hope they hear the joy. I hope they hear the respect and the joy that I have for this game and the guys that are playing it now. There's something that I wrote. I had a notepad when I first started, and you always have an idea. I didn't know how long this was going to last. I'm grateful to be this is my 14th year in the booth, and I played for 14 years. So I've actually matched my career on the field with how much time I've spent in the booth, which is remarkable in itself. But I have a notepad that I started broadcasting with, and it was one of those, dorky composition books that are black and white, that you had in college. And I wrote on the inside of the, what did I want to be as a broadcaster? And I said I wanted to speak to that 12-year-old athlete, whether it be male, female, football player, basketball, lacrosse, whatever sport it was. I wanted them to be encouraged at a 12-year-old level to be able to go out there and compete, dream, and enjoy the game. But I also it also encouraged me to be able to speak about the game at their level, which is something I try and do on a daily basis. Because this baseball game is analytic, it's launch angles, it's spin rates, and it can get kind of confusing at times. But trying to break that down for the 12-year-old athlete, I want them to be inspired to go play the game. That's something I hope I get out of every broadcast.
Love that. Well, Geoff, thank you so much. It's been great.
No, yeah, thank you. I appreciate you putting up with me for a little while.
Some moments stay with you long after the final out. A swing in the 14th inning, a game that felt like it would never end, and a story that even now still gives you chills. But what I've learned is that those moments, they're just the beginning. Because behind every highlight, every career, every name you think you know, there's always more to the story. And that's exactly what we're diving into next. Season 2 of Plot Twist Radio is here, with more stories you didn't see coming, more moments that changed everything, and a lineup of guests that are going to take this show to a whole new level. Some are familiar names, some unexpected ones, and a few conversations that honestly, I still can't believe I get to have. Coming up this week, we have Kevin Pierce, former snowboarder turned advocate, and we'll also be recording an episode with Five for Fighting. I'm sure a lot of you remember the song Superman in 100 Years. I know I do, and it's been in my head ever since we booked him. So be on the lookout for them and many, many more. Until next time, I'm Erin, and this is Plot Twist Radio.